मैं audible now?
Yes.
श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Who would like to chant? Been a while for somebody? Yeah. Swapna. श्री भगवानुवाच
श्री भगवान उवाच
अनाश्रितः कर्मफलम्
अनाश्रितः कर्मफलं
कार्यं कर्म करोति यः
कार्यं कर्म करोति यः
स सन्न्यासी च योगी च
स सन्न्यासी च योगी च
न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः
न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः
यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुः
यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुः
योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव
योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव
न ह्यसन्न्यस्तसङ्कल्पः
न न ह्यसन्न्यस्त न ह्यसन्न्यस्त संकल्पः
योगी भवति कश्चन
योगी भवति कश्चन
आरुरुक्षोर्मुनेर्योगम्
आरुरुक्षोर्मुनेर्योगम्
कर्म कारणमुच्यते
कर्म कारणमुच्यते
योगारूढस्य तस्यैव
योगारूढस्य तस्यैव
शमः कारणमुच्यते
शमः कारणमुच्यते
यदा हीनेन्द्रियार्थेषु
यदा हीनेन्द्रियार्थेषु
न कर्मस्वनुषज्यते
न कर्मस्वनुषज्जते
सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी
सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी
योगारूढस्तदोच्यते
योगारूढस्तदोच्यते
उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानम्
उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं
नात्मानमवसादयेत्
नात्मानमवसादयेत्
आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः
आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः
आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः
आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः
बन्धुरात्मा
बन्धुरात्मा
आत्मनस्तस्य
आत्मनस्तस्य
येनात्मैव
येनात्मैव
आत्मना जितः
आत्मना जितः
अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे
अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे
वर्तेतात्मैव
वर्तेतात्मैव
शत्रुवत्
शत्रुवत्
बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य
बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य
येनात्मैवात्मना जितः
येनात्मैवात्मना जितः
अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे
अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे
वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्
वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्.
Yeah. So number six is what we have to do today. So having entered the chapter number 6 here, whose primary topic is going to be Dhyanam. In the last shloka, Krishna made a very beautiful statement that one has to take care of oneself. Having understood all this, now one has to make an effort to look into oneself, one's own mind, one's own body, and health is important. He didn't say all that, but we are going to interpret all these things. One's own health is important. So when we study the Shastra, what will happen is the person who's been ignoring one's own health, the person will start being a little more careful. Correct? Because now it is Shastroktam. No, I won't listen to my wife, I won't listen to my husband. That idea will be there. But now Shastra is saying, Krishna is saying, so now it's a little difficult to, to ignore Krishna. And so they become a little more health conscious. So some yoga, suddenly you ask that person, I'm attending yoga class. What? The word yoga did not come out of your mouth all these years and now you're going to yoga class? Yeah, I think a nice good teacher, come, you also come. So like that it starts. And so sometimes we need that kind of a turn of events, and that starts happening, and Krishna validates all that. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. He made it very clear there. So we spent a good bit of time on that shloka last class. And now, so in the last class he said, you are your own friend and you are your own enemy. Okay. And hey, how can these two are opposite attributes? Friendship versus, this combative enemy, these two are opposite attributes. So how can those two be the same person? So Shankaracharya introduces this next shloka, which is Bandhuratma. He introduces that by saying, so what kind of person? What kind of person can be your friend, and what kind of person can be your enemy? That is the introduction to this shloka. Kim Lakshanaha, like that he says. Okay, so now let's look at this. Bandhuratma. So first question to all of you. Some of you must have counted how many Atmas are there? 5 Atmas. Okay, Meera, I can't see. 8 Atmas? 7 Atmas. Okay, 6 Atmas. No, don't write like, give me a number, finger, show me a finger. Anjali, go ahead. What is that number? Okay, 6, 7. There you go. 7, 6. Hemalata 6. Surendra Watley, how many? Okay, 6, I think. Yeah. Girish 7. Okay, good. All right. So Shailaja. Okay, good. So let's count. So last time I told you the answer, but let's start counting now. Okay. Bandhur Atma, then Atmanaha Tasya. Let's split it, right? Bandhuhu Atma Atmanaha Tasya. So they're right there. We've got 2 Atmas. Then Yena Atma. So 3 Atmas. Yena Atma Eva Atmana. So there is the 4th Atma. Jitaha Atmanaha Tu. There is the 5th Atma. Shatrutve Varteta Atma Eva Shatruvat. So that makes it the 6th Atma. Correct? 6. So those who got 6, they can say, okay, not bad. I'm able to decipher this shloka somewhat. Okay, good. So if somebody asks you what is the meaning of the word Atma in this shloka, well, it has the same meaning that we said in the previous shloka, which had, I think, 7 Atmas. So same meaning. And what is that meaning? That meaning is Atma is not Satchidananda Atma. Atma is not Brahma. Atma here is this physical and mental body, mind, sense complex. This log of 150 pounds, 180 pounds, 80 kilos, whatever you want to call it, that piece that is sitting, that is supposed to be helpful to me, that body, mind, sense complex is called Atma. Karya Karana Sanghataha in Sanskrit. Okay, that is the meaning of the word Atma in this shloka. Now, let's look at that. Okay. So that referring to the previous shloka, which refers to, of course, Atma, that Kari Karana Sanghata. Then he says, Yena Atma Eva Atmana Jitaha. So Bandhu, first word is Bandhu, a friend. So Bandhu Atma Atmanaha Tasya. Tasya means for that person. For which person? For the person referred to in the previous shloka. And tasya atmanaha means third word, bandhuhu, atma, atmanaha, tasya. Okay, there are 4 words in the first word. Okay, I hope you put some commas or something and separated it all out, right? So tasya atmanaha. And so that person who was referred to in the previous shloka, for that person, uh, Atma is a bandhu. Atma is bandhu. Atma is a friend. For that person, Atma is a friend. And what? And he defines further what that Atma is. For that, the type of person for whom Atma is a friend. The body is a friend. The mind is a friend. Okay. Yena Atma eva Atmana jitaha. Jitaha. Jitaha means, of course, one over. That person is called Jitaha. Jitaha. That person is called Jitaha. And one who has fine-tuned his instruments. All these are called instruments. Yeah, Maheshji.
You're breaking out. You froze for a few seconds. So even now it is frozen. So I thought I would.
Okay. So talking about this word Jitaha. Jitaha. One who has won over. That is the literal meaning of the word Jitaha. Who has won over what? So we know that won over. One's tendencies to let go. One's tendency to surrender to senses. Surrender to senses. That person is not like that anymore. And the person is alert. We've seen that. And one who has worked on himself, right? So even in a concert, in an Indian concert, if you look, Indian classical music concert. So when you say concert, then these days we have to ask, tell it's a rock concert. That's often that's what they say. Here somehow in Coimbatore, I have not seen advertisements of rock concerts, and I don't know. Maybe it's happening. I'm just not observing or what. I don't know. So it's not. I need to ask some people, local college boys. I should meet and ask them what's going on. But I'm talking about a classical music concert in India, or classical music, Indian classical music concert anywhere in the world. So you find these people, they come and sit down there. What do? 15 minutes. You wonder, as a concert should start, everything is set up, tablas are there, violin is there, veena is there, everybody is sitting all fine. Then they start doing all this shruti. Coin, coin, keeps happening. Tambura, Tanpura is there, and then tabla, fellow is taking a stone and hitting the tabla and listening like this. Kada, 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 kada. So this goes on. This goes on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like that. And now the vocal person, I don't see them doing all these things. Okay, I don't see them practicing. Sa, pa, sa. So I don't see them doing that. Somehow, I think they must be in control of their voice, I think. But the instruments, then they want to check, because we are not the instrument. Now the instrument is out there, and so they are checking it out. And so for a concert, look at how much time they spend, and fine tuning their instruments. And in northern Indian concert, mean that's another different thing. And there they spend so much time on Shruti and Alap. Their Alap will go for 2 hours. By the time South Indian concert will be over. Okay. And so in the northern India, they don't take our southern Indian artists seriously. Okay. They don't say, we don't accept. Like that, they will say sometimes. So they are even more strict about this Shruti and all that. Not that we are not strict, but they like to do Alap. They'll keep going. So keep on going. And you must have the patience. One good thing about attending these concerts is you'll get some patience. You can just sit there and test yourself. It's a test. Without shaking, just sit there. Can you sit? And so concert itself, look at how much time they spend. So when I've been given these so-called instruments, and our Shastram calls it Karanam. Karanam means instrument. And all these sense organs are all Indriyani, they're all Karanani. Body is an instrument. Mind, of course, they call it an instrument, Anta Karanam. And so, uh, I must take care of my instruments. I must fine tune my instruments, and and uh, even if you look at companies, you look at organizations, great organization, great leaders, but because they are not communicating with each other, because they don't talk to each other, because they don't see eye to eye on each other, organizations fall. Great people just, great companies fall by the wayside. And so, very important to keep that in mind. And of course, we go to our own kitchen, we've got knife and all these instruments, and a knife can be a friend, a knife can be your enemy also. And what to talk about all this car and everything. You take an automobile, you drive an automobile, it can be a friend, it can take you places, or it can take you to Swarga also. We can go shortcut, because I've been studying Bhagavad Gita and all, and I want to go to Swarga, finish off all my papam punyam, and then I want to get moksha. Somebody got very excited, and then so they decided to do something interesting. No, don't do all that. And gas, all these things, every item. I was thinking the other day, every item you look, yeah, one has to be very careful. Electricity, you have to be careful. We take things for granted. Nuclear power, of course, we benefit from that, but it's another thing. You can Hiroshima occurred because of nuclear power. And I was reading the other day about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My goodness, that kind of devastation that happened in Japan, it's unbelievable. All the suffering for years and on, they have suffered. So we have to be very careful. This what's his name, Oppenheimer, he was the head of that project, that atom bomb project. And there are some scholars. See, this Oppenheimer, he quoted the Bhagavad Gita. One of the shlokas is there, Vishwarupa Darshana and all. It is there. He quoted that shloka, and he's known for that. And so some of the scholars, there is some guilt in America about all these things, the way they've destroyed all these other countries. And so, in order to cover up the guilt, what they do? They say it is the Bhagavad Gita that made Oppenheimer invent the atom bomb and throw it on Japan. Okay, look up all. There's a lot of psychology involved. These fellows are all, mischievous people, and they do that. So my friend wrote to me, how to blame the Bhagavad Gita for the atom bomb. Here is an article on that. Like that, he sent me years ago, and then only I knew some of the psychology that was involved here. So, bottom line here for us is, Jitaha, we have to be alert about ourselves. Very simple. All psychology is filled with this, and how you have to help yourself, how you can improve yourself. And so we have to take advantage of all that literature that's available, and if necessary, visit a psychologist to take care of our anger problems, to take care of our other, other issues. It can even be things like seeking approval constantly, and inability to decide, or whatever it is, anything that's becoming a burden in my life. And for that, and how do I know it's a burden in my life? Well, all you have to do is listen to your spouse, and that is enough. And instead of reacting to them, you just make a note, record them, and then listen to them later on. And then say, wow, yeah, she says this all the time to me. There must be some truth in it, right? It may not be 100% truth, but some truth. And then, yeah, I think she's right. I think she's right. So that's it. The minute I say I think she's right, 50% of the problem solved, correct? And so, like that, Krishna is saying, you do it. Atmana jitaha. Look at that. Yena atma eva atmana jitaha. Okay. See, Tritiya, there are two Tritiyas here. Yena jitaha. By whom the body has been mastered. Okay. Atma yena jitaha. And then how yena atmana means by oneself. How did he do that? Well, by using his mind, by using his own free will, he did that. He or she did that. So yena atmana jitaha. Well, why shouldn't I use somebody else to help myself? Well, if you use somebody else to help yourself, I mean, somebody else is always available to help. But finally, it is me. If I say somebody else, then somebody else also needs help. And then how did they help themselves? And then they need somebody else. And then that somebody else will need somebody else to help. Therefore, really speaking, somebody else cannot help. I can seek advice from other people, but finally I have to work on myself. Correct? I think you see the point there. So that is why God will save me also. Krishna is saying indirectly. I've saved you already by giving you this Bhagavad Gita. Now come on, work on yourself. So that's and one of our Swamis who teaches us, and another big Mahatma came and visited this Swamiji. Okay. And then because that Mahatma had heard this Swamiji's recordings and all that, and he comes and says, how can you say even gurus cannot help you? How? You are insulting Guru. You're insulting God. That's not right. You're not teaching properly. Look at that. So, it's not that we are insulting Guru. Without Guru, things don't move. Of course, we understand that very well. But finally, the Guru also. So, your son is in the running race. He's doing the 100-meter dash. And so you are there right near the ribbon. You're standing there. And because any other position is not good for you, and so you decided I'll stand at the end because you want to see the finish. Parents are all there, and so what can you do? Teacher also is there, the coach is also there standing. They're all anxiously waiting for this boy to finish first. And what can you do? You can clap, you can say, come on Vikram, all this you can do. But finally this boy has to run. He has to watch his steps. He's got to keep up his stamina, and he has to hit the ribbon at the first. And so the gods also can clap. Indra, Varuna, everybody can clap. They also cannot. Indra cannot say, I'll come and run instead of you. Even Indra cannot say that. And so everybody can help us. We have to take the help of everybody. And finally, we've got to do the race, which is fine. We'll do it. And so here, look at that. So we have to use Cha Shakti is there, Kriya Shakti is there, Jnana Shakti is there, Swarupini. We are all an embodiment of these three Shaktis. And so the power to desire, the power to think, and the power to act given to us. And here Savji would say, there are people who say we don't have free will. We don't have free will. And yeah, we believe that everything moves, not an atom moves without his will, like that we say. But then this free will is so important because so I told one person, somebody who said we don't have free will. I said, no, what I said, it came to me like this. I said, the fact that you're asking me whether we have free will tells me you have free will. What do you think of that answer? Okay, the fact that you're asking me tells me you have free will. You have the ability to think about free will. You even understand what free will is. And you're saying, no, we don't have free will. Correct? To say I don't have free will, I must have free will. Correct? Because the cow also doesn't have free will. The dog doesn't have free will. It doesn't come and tell me, you know what, we all don't have free will. Please treat us with compassion. They don't tell us. They can't talk, nothing. And so I think that's a very important point. The fact that I'm even asking this question tells me there is free will. And so here it's very clear. Atmana jitaha. Atmana, free will. Using one's free will alone, that person has gained mastery over oneself. And then first line is about that person who has mastered oneself, and that person is one's own friend. Atma bandhuhu. Tasya atmanaha atma bandhu. Of that person who has won over, worked on himself, one is a friend. That person is his own friend, her own friend. Okay, that is the first line. Now, what about anatmanastu? Tu means on the other hand, whereas anatmanaha shatrutve varteta atma eva shatruvat. Okay, so shatru, the word shatru obviously means enemy, ripuhu, which was mentioned in the last shloka also. So, what kind of person is that person who becomes an enemy to himself or herself? That is being said. And that person is anatma. That person is referred to in this shloka as anatma. Very cryptic, these words are. Okay. And so it's impossible to understand a shloka like this. Given a dictionary, I'll give you a dictionary of 1 million words. Okay. And then go figure out this meaning. Very difficult to figure out. Correct? Very difficult. Because he's referring to that person previously atmanaha. That word atmanaha, and was defined as yena atmana jitaha. One, that atma, that person who has gained a mastery, who has assessed himself herself and decided, I must do something, I must change my ways, and I am addicted to A, B, C, D, I must do something about it. That person was defined earlier. Here, anatmanaha, anatma. Anatma does not mean in opposite of atma. Anatma means one who has not mastered oneself. That person is called anatma. See, what does he say here? Yeah, Swamiji also says that. For the self who has not mastered oneself, that person is called anatma. The first word, anatma, refers to that. Okay. So for that person who has not decided to work on oneself, does not know what the problems are, person wants to remain the way and just spend life. Person may have low self-esteem. The person may have may condemn others for all his problems. And in India they say this often, as children we've heard this, right? If you point your finger to somebody, 3 fingers are pointing at you, like that they say. And then as children we used to wonder, oh, is that right? Oh, this is too much. Correct, you have to be careful. And so like that our teachers used to tell us. And so same thing here also. And same thing here also. So so they say, I heard another statement. When you blame others, when you're angry at others, it is like holding on to a hot charcoal with the intention of hitting somebody and hurting. And it says you first get burnt before it burns other people. So this is the truth about anger and addiction and things like that. So that person, people who are somehow helpless and they get lost in a vicious cycle. Um, and our Duryodhana is a great example of that for us. And that person is an anatma here, anatma. Okay. And so anatma, first time I think we have anatma here, right? Previous shloka we did not have anatma. We had atma 7 times. Here also atma 6 times, with here a prefix, a nanj prefix, and which is an. So anatma, okay, 2. Whereas that anatma, that person who has decided, who hasn't done anything about himself, what about that person? Shatrutve varteta. That person is present as, is an enemy to himself, like an enemy. It's a very interesting way of putting it. Like an enemy, the body is an enemy to himself. Mind is an enemy to himself, herself. Like that, Krishna is saying here. And so, very critical to understand this. We can't just say it and walk away. Because that level of awareness has to come. And then once that awareness comes, and I used to enjoy listening to all these motivational speakers. My God, in America, they do that. In our companies, they used to visit people periodically and they used to come and talk about, you know, improving oneself and so forth. I used to enjoy all those talks. And I used to even listen to purchase their recordings and listen to them. And they used to give some self-assessment booklets. And I used to have all, I don't know what happened to all that. I think we need to keep that kit with us. I think very important, so that it makes us. It's a mirror, it's a reflection. That is only. I guess that's why that process is called reflection. Reflect upon yourself means what? Look at your own reflection periodically, right? Very important that is, and so even if you look at a country, it's easy to go to the neighboring country and throw bombs, bomb the other country. But you look at our own country, you've got all this, they call it sleeper cells, and they have Naxalites in Andhra and all these places, Naxalites, and very difficult to deal with them, very difficult. And we've got intellectual Naxalites also, and they're very, very difficult to deal with them. And they offer theories to say why India is one of the greatest terrorist countries in this world. Like this, they will speak publicly also. My God. And so very difficult. So that's why that's why that recognizing the problems we have in our own body and mind in particular. Body is easy because body, somebody can say, hey, you've been hurting for the last 1 week. You can't be like this. You have to see a doctor. It's getting worse every day. Okay, that they will say. But mind, nobody knows also how to solve problems and things like that. We are not psychologists. We need somebody to tell us all these things. And so that's why Krishna is saying it here. He's saying, Anatmanaha tu shatrutve varteta atma eva shatruvat. So again, a tongue twister of a shloka here. Yeah, so Sri Vidya is saying we have urban Naxalites also. Okay, there are books on that topic as well. So that's why for that person, and that's why even when that person comes to a Vedanta class, what will happen? You see, we've all gone through these stages. Okay, they say, what do they say? They say, Karpura Buddhi, Kari Buddhi, and then Vadathandu Buddhi. Like that they say in this Tamil Nadu. Karpura Buddhi means, see, Vadathandu Buddhi means the mind which is like the, what do you call that? The meat of the banana tree. Okay, banana tree. So you take the banana trees, remove the skin, etc. And then it's a delicacy. Okay, it's a delicacy. And then that banana tree core buddhi means it will never, banana stem. Okay, that's what Shailaja is saying. So banana stem, and means that when you want to light the banana stem, you can't light it because it's wet. And not only that, it will put out the fire. And then there is the coal buddhi. Coal buddhi means it takes a while for the coal to burn, and then it will burn after some time, and then after some time, whatever. So it takes a lot of time. So manda buddhi, and then karpura buddhi. Karpura buddhi means what? It's like camphor. You light it, immediately it lights, and it doesn't leave anything behind also. So perfect, pakka. So like that they say here. So Swami Paramarthanandaji jokes. So this buddhi, this Vadathandu buddhi, that banana stem buddhi, he will sometimes, even he or she will make the teacher also forget the Bhagavad Gita. Like that he jokes. And so then he said, what happened? You didn't understand anything? And then the teacher has to go and look up the notes. What happened? I also don't understand what's going on. I'm not getting it. This is why we have to start with a prayer. And so we are not judging anybody because we've gone through, we have seen it in our own life. All these attributes are there in our own life. So we don't have a problem. And so we have to start the classes with Sahana Bhavatu. Very important, because the teacher also has to pray that may things come properly in my mind. May I not utter irrelevant things, very easy to utter irrelevant things. It may be relevant to me, but may not be relevant to the rest of the people. And so that also one has to be careful. And so ma vidvishava hai, so important, because a student can feel that no, Guruji is not paying attention to me. He's partial to others, and they don't care for me. All these ideas will come. It comes because of our own background. Nobody to blame. Guruji is not to blame. No student is to blame. It all comes. These things come. And the minute it comes, then the Shastra will suffer. The teaching, the class will not work. Correct? They're all negative thoughts. And so, Mahavidvishava, hey, we say it every class, we say it. Means what? Hey, may we don't judge each other. May we don't not judge each other, even though the temptation is there to judge. You tell yourself, no, I will not do that. If I have a problem, I'll talk to somebody about it. I may even call Guruji, Swamiji and talk about it. But I will not allow these feelings to come in my way. Correct? So that's so important. So let's look at this shloka. For that, within brackets, self, for that self, who has mastered oneself by oneself. So there are 6 atmas in this. So you better be prepared. Okay. So for that, within brackets, self, who has mastered oneself by oneself, comma, the self alone is a friend of oneself. The self alone is a friend of oneself. Full stop. Okay. Whereas, comma, for the self who has not mastered oneself, for the self means for the person who has not mastered oneself, comma, the self alone would remain, in the status of an enemy. The self alone would remain in the status of an enemy, comma, like an enemy. So 2 words are there. Shatrutve, Shatruvat. So the self alone would remain in the status of an enemy, comma, like an enemy. For that self who has mastered oneself by oneself, comma, the self alone is a friend of oneself. Full stop. Whereas, comma, for the person or for the self who has not mastered oneself, comma, the self alone would remain in the status of an enemy, comma, like an enemy. So the Anvaya would be like this, Sanskrit students. Yena Atmana Eva, the second quarter. Yena Atmana Eva, Atma Jitaha. That is the second quarter of the shloka, second half of the first line. Yena Atmana Eva Atma Jitaha. Tasya, come back to the first quarter. Tasya Atma Atmanaha Bandhuhu Bhavati. Tasya Atmanaha is Shashti, sixth case Ekavachanam. Tasya Atmanaha, Tasya Atma Atmanaha bandhuhu bhavati. I hope you're able to follow that. Then full stop. 2. Whereas anatmanaha atma eva anatmanaha atma eva shatruvat, like an enemy, shatrutve varteta. Varteta atmanepada vrit dhatu. Once again, 2. Atmanaha atma eva shatruvat shatrutve varteta. Varteta means remains, would remain. I hope you got that. Okay. Surendra, what will? You can unmute yourself. Jitat manaha
जितात्मनः
prashantasya
प्रशान्तस्य
paramatma samahitaha
परमात्मा समाहितः
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु
तथा मानापमानयोः
तथा मानापमानयोः
जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य
जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य
परमात्मा समाहितः
परमात्मा समाहितः
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु
तथा मानापमानयोः.
तथा मानापमानयोः.
Yeah. Pith. Priya says pith of the banana trunk. Okay. In Tamil Nadu, pith means idiot. That's the meaning. Languages are beautiful. Okay. So continuing that same discussion here. Okay. So look at those words, very important words again. Jitatmanaha. Jita, the word jita comes again, right? Jitatmanaha. We saw this word jitatma before somewhere. Okay. And what about this? Yoga yukto vishuddhatma. Okay, look at reference 5.7. 5.7. So there we saw yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha. And then sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. So there we saw this vijitatma, same meaning. Vijitatma, jitatma, same meaning. So here it is jitatmanaha. Jitatmanaha is possessive, sixth case. Jitatma is first case, a nominator. Okay. So jitatma is one who has mastered oneself, one who is no longer carried away by one's senses, no longer carried away by one's fancies. So when this girl asked me that question in that talk last week, I was so happy because she asked the question, how to not get carried away by fancies. This is what she said, right? So when somebody says that, you immediately realize, okay, that person already knows that there is something called a fancy and I should not get carried away by that. That also she knows. So she has the answer already. So which is a great start. So that same jitatma is mentioned here, and who may have moods. Okay, don't think all sannyasis are all moodless people. Okay, Anjali asked that question. Otherwise, it becomes like a stone. This is a no in psychology. In psychology, suppression is they are very conscious about that. You don't suppress your emotions. No way. We don't suppress our emotions. And so mastery does not mean suppression. Please, that's why I'm carefully using the word mastery. Mastery means you allow emotions to come, but you watch them. You don't allow your emotions to hurt other people. Watch it. Watch the anger. Doesn't mean somebody may not get angry also. Anger may come, but immediately subsides. Okay. And so moods will be there. But then just look at the moods and then smile. And this is how life is. But then Atma is not affected by the moods. And so I don't allow my moods to take me hostage. And so that authority I have, that freedom I have. Will I allow myself to do this or do that? And so that person is a Jitatma. We've seen that before. And Prashantasya, second word, Prashantaha. Prashantaha. So such a person is naturally going to be composed and who's going to be tranquil. The mind is going to be calm. And if somebody is there to talk, there is some conversation going on. Nobody is there to talk, no problem. And the mind is not running here and there. And so that person is going to be a Prashantaha. And then Krishna here says, Paramatma Samahitaha. Two ways to interpret this. Okay. Paramatma, first way. Second way, Paramatma means Ishvara, Brahma, Paramatma, Samahitaha. That's one way to interpret it. We'll talk about it later. The second way to interpret that is Atma Param Samahitaha. Param is not part of the Paramatma word. Param is an independent word, Adhyayam, which is called always, which means always. Atma Param Sarvada Samahitaha. I think you all understand that. Okay. So Atma Param Samahitaha. So Param. So I'm always in a good mood in the morning, but by the time night comes, then I have a problem, serious problem. Okay. So not like that. So not up and down like that. Therefore, Param Samahitaha. Always. Always. And so he gives some examples. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu. A very tough one. In Shita means cold, Ushna means hot, and then Sukha is pleasant situations, Dukkha is unpleasant situations. And in all those situations, okay, how can you be same in all those situations? And try sleeping with the windows open and AC on at full, 15 degrees, and then try sleeping. No, we can't do that. And so even when the situation is uncomfortable, despite your best effort, then you don't condemn anybody. And this is how the situation is. We'll try our best to change the situation, but this is how it is. And so no condemnation is there. And same thing, unpleasantly hot. So very interesting. Swamiji mentions not simply hot, because when you drink tea, suppose I give you a cold glass of tea. Huh? Or not even cold, lukewarm glass of tea. What will you say? Please, very politely, Jaykumarji, can you please, little, do you have a heater? Yeah. What is this? Do you have a heater? Can you please heat this? I can heat it also myself. Tell me where the heater is. So that's what we will say. Why? Because you want it piping hot. Some people like pipe. This Tamil Nadu people and all, they won't sacrifice all this. Piping hot should be super hot. Anything less than that, they can't accept. And then on top of that, they will take that tumbler, they will pour it inside the mouth. You should watch this. This drama can only happen in Tamil Nadu. Nowhere else in the world you can see this. And it's piping hot. Its steam is coming out of this. These are some of the beauties of our lives. So we should enjoy all these things. And so when it is so hard, but when it falls in the body, then that's a different thing altogether. I don't know how they do this. My goodness. So that's, I think the tongue, the brain just takes on a different form altogether. It's ready for this. And it converts a potentially hazardous situation into a very desirable situation. Correct? Somebody has to research on this and find out what's going on. So Shitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu. Shita means cold, Ushna means hot, and Sukha pleasant, Dukkha unpleasant, and even traumatic experiences are going to be there. How am I going to deal with that? How am I going to respond to that? How am I going to accept that? Can I accept these situations in my life? And so that kind of a person, Tata mana apamana yoga. Krishna adds one more here. Tatha, and also mana apamana yoga. Okay, you can deal with all these things fine. All this heat, cold, sweltering heat and all. Okay, you're able to handle pretty well. Okay, what about praise and insult? Can you handle that? Krishna is not going to leave us this so easily. And then what about insult? I'm going to. So somebody somebody says, no, I'm done. I've been working on this for a long time, and now I can deal with all these situations. Or somebody keeps on advising others, and you have to deal with all these things properly. The samahita buddhi you must have. Suppose somebody keeps advising you like this. What you should tell him? Find the right moment and then tell him, you keep talking about this, but you don't seem to be able to handle criticism that well at all. You tell him that and see how he responds. See how he responds. If he says, what? How dare you tell that to me? Then you know exactly what. So tata mana apamana yoho. And mana means praise. Apamana means opposite of praise, censure, criticism, insult. All that comes here. So therefore, here Swamiji makes a point to say, you can't simply tell yourself that I'm good, I'm not going to get upset, I'm not going to get upset. That is not enough. That becomes a superimposition. I am never upset. I will never be upset. I will never be upset is a good thing to say, tell yourself. But without solving problems, if you begin to do these things, then it can become a superimposition. It can become a projection. It can become a make-believe situation, which is not healthy at all. And so one has to take the time to help ourselves. And so the second interpretation, I said second interpretation. First interpretation is what? Atma param samahitaha. Atma is always composed. Okay. Atma means the body, mind, sense complex is composed. The mind is composed. And then what about the second meaning? Paramatma samahitaha. And this is the meaning Shankara gives. And he says, Sakshat Atma Bhavena Vartate. He says that. Sakshat Atma Bhavena Vartate. Means what? Now you know what it means? Hey, that person knows that Paramatma and Atma are not two different things. Atma Bhavena Vartate. Shankara uses the word Vartate, and now it strikes me. It strikes me that it is the word that was used. Varteta Shatruvat. Where is that? Shloka. Yeah. Number 6. Varteta. So Shankara has used that word. So Sakshat Atma Bhavena Vartate means what? Hey, the person who is like this, who is Jitatma, who is Prashantaha, that person is ready to know or already knows that Paramatma and Atma are identical. Jiveshwara Ikya Buddhi is there. So that's what he said. Okay, so let's look at the shloka. For the one who has mastery over oneself, comma, whose mind is tranquil, with reference to heat and cold, comma, pleasure and pain. Comma, and praise and criticism, comma, the mind is always in a state of composure. That is the first interpretation. Mind is always in a state of composure. Okay. Second interpretation is what? The Shankara's interpretation, which is Atma Bhavena Sakshat Vartate, right? So there you can say that last after the comma, you can say there is abidance in Paramatma. There is abidance in Paramatma. With the brackets, knowing that Atma and Paramatma are identical, essentially. There is abidance as Paramatma. For the one who has mastery over oneself, comma, whose mind is tranquil with reference to heat and cold, comma, pleasure and pain, comma, and praise and criticism, comma, the mind is always in a state of composure, or there is abidance as Paramatma. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.